Hi, I'm Louise from Husqvarna Viking UK, and I'm going to show you the differences between our old designer ruby machines and to a certain extent the diamonds as well, and our new designer ruby 90. The first thing you'll notice is the size. So if you had a ruby or a diamond, you'd have been used to a sewing area of 250 millimeters, that's just under 10 inches, between the needle and the tower here. This machine is 310 millimeters, so that's 60 millimeters more. That's about 12.2 inches. So you've got over 2 inches of extra space here. Plus, you've got extra space height-wise as well. This is 5.5 inches between the bed of the machine and the underneath of the arm here, and you've got over 3 inches in height underneath the head as well, so changing needles, changing feet, that sort of thing is really easy. You can get your hands in there, but lots of space and capacity for bigger projects like quilts or home furnishings or coats or whatever your thing is, whether you're a dressmaker or do some other sort of sewing. Embroidery wise, if you have a ruby or a diamond, you will be familiar with the 360 by 200 hoop, because that was the largest hoop that came with your machine. Now, the largest hoop that comes with this machine, there are 3 in total, but this is the biggest, is the 260 by 360. So if I put the two together side by side like that, you can see the difference in the embroidery area you've got. So you've got an extra 60 millimeters in width. So bigger hoops, bigger embroideries, less rehooping. That's all good. And of course the machine does still take the biggest hoop we do, which is the Majestic hoop at 360 by 350 millimeters. So if you had one of these as an optional extra for your diamond, you can bring it over to this machine as well. So let's have a look at the numbers around stitches and embroidery designs. So this machine's got over 800 built-in stitches, and that includes some of the HV speciality stitches like pop-up, applique, yarn embellishment, sequin and theme stitches. That's 289 more than you had on your ruby and 119 more than you had on your diamond, so lots more stitches to go at. Plus there are 5 alphabets in this machine compared to the 3 that would have been on the ruby and the diamond as well. Embroidery wise, there's over 650 built-in designs, plus there's an update with over 70 signature designs designed especially for this machine, one of which is on the cushion at the back there. That's 360 more than were on the ruby and 300 more than were on the diamond. Wow. You've got 8 multi-size embroidery fonts compared to the 4 that you had before, and most of those are either 2 or 3 different sizes within each font as well. So there's so much more built into this machine than has been on the previous models. So let's have a look at the screen. So just wake it up. So a ruby has a 5.7 inch screen, a diamond has an 8 inch screen, this has a massive 10.1 inch screen. It's colour touch screen, no stylus, you can drag and drop, you can swipe, you can pinch, rotate, spread, do all the things you do just as you would on your smartphone or your tablet or your iPad, just works the same way. It's connected to Wi-Fi. We've not had that before. And it's also connected to my MySewnet account. Now that enables you, it's free to sign up, you get cloud storage, and that enables you to connect your machine to your other devices like your phone, your PC, your tablet, your Mac, and you can move designs backwards and forwards using the MySewnet cloud. You've also got apps that work with your machine on Android or iOS, so you can monitor what your machine is doing. So for instance, if you're embroidering, you could walk away, go and do your washing up. It would tell you if your thread broke, or your bobbin thread ran out, or you needed to change the thread because it was a different colour. You can do design placement with it, so you can take a photograph of your hooped up fabric and transfer that to your machine and use that to do your design placement, actually on the screen with the background as the photograph of your hoop. You can take a photograph and convert it to monochrome embroidery and send that via MySewNet to your machine. And you can also have your sewing advisor by your side on your tablet or your phone if you prefer not to have it open on the screen all the time. We'll come to that in a second. We've also got the MySewNet blog, so that's full of tips and tricks, projects, free designs, ideas, inspiration. It's almost like a newsletter for your machine. So that's constantly updated with different things, and you can pick out of that what you want. We've also got the MySewNet library. That's over 6,000 designs that if you're subscribed you have access to. It's a little bit like a music streaming service or film streaming service, or even some software comes like that, Microsoft 365 for instance. You pay a subscription, you have access to everything, you just pick and choose when you want, rather than buying loads of designs perhaps that you might never use. Anyway, moving on from that, if you have a valid subscription you have access to the library. And that brings me to the next thing, which is, of course, we still do the complimentary software download for all our embroidery machines. But this machine comes with a free 3-month trial of MySewNet Silver. So that includes the library, and it includes the MySewNet Silver software package as well. So it's better than the complimentary one. It's not our top package, but it gives you an opportunity to try it out for free and see if you like it. But I think that's a fantastic offer with this machine, so yeah, that's great. So the other thing it does, machine updates are all done via your Wi-Fi in the background. So you can continue sewing, it will download the update and then just let you know when it's ready to actually do the install. So you don't need to worry anymore about whether your machine's up to date. As long as it's connected to Wi-Fi, it'll do it itself. So moving on to what you used to know as the Sewing Advisor and is now the JoyOS Advisor, Joy of Sewing. And it's full of, I don't know, it's really helpful. You'll recognise the fabric choices. We've always had those. We've also always had these basic sewing techniques, so you can set it to do a seam, overcast, blind hem, buttonhole, whatever, and it'll set that up for the appropriate fabric choice. But we've got lots more things now. So in the sewing side we've got how to do collars, how to do hems and edges, necklines, pockets, ruffles and gathering, tucks, pleats and darts, zippers, and the whole thing has instructions built in, and it will set up the correct stitches for doing the method that you've chosen. So if I now go to the quilting section, we've got free motion quilting, so it's all about rulers and stippling with the spring foot, how to do binding, how to use the quilt binder, how to do applique, piecing, you know, there's lots of things in there. If I go to embroidery, we've then got basic embroidery, but we've got applique, quilting and patchwork, freestanding lace, cut work, yarn embellished embroidery, surface embroidery, felting. So let's have a look at felting, because I quite like that one. So you've got freestanding felting, felting with multiple layers where it pulls the fibres through, and then felting with a single layer. So let's do freestanding felting. It's just dropped the feed dogs and lifted the foot up. It knows what we're going to do. So it's now brought up instructions, tells you what you need, takes you through it step by step. There's even videos in there. It tells you exactly what to do step by step. And if I minimise that out of the way, it's brought up the designs that are already in the machine that use that technique as well, so you can just pick something straight away and have a go with it. So if we go back to our home screen, we've also got the Knowledge Centre. So there's a quick start guide which takes you through all the basic functions of the machine, like winding a bobbin, how to use the auto needle threader, we'll show you that later, how to attach the sensor cue foot. It's just to get you started. You've also got sewing instructions, different projects in there, the accessory guide, so again things like the ruler foot, the quilt binder, how to do cut work, how to use an endless hoop, how to use the ribbon embroidery attachment, which is compatible with this machine. This is a new thing that you won't have been able to use before. So that's the ribbon embroidery attachment. Fits to your machine instead of the presser foot, plugs in at the back in the buttonhole foot socket, and you can produce embroideries with ribbon. I've got rather a boring sample here, I do apologise for that, but it does actually show you the difference that different ribbons make. So we've got a 5, 7, 10 and a 10mm organza ribbon at the bottom there, but this is just a very simple border design, and you can see how much texture that can bring to your projects, and especially if you combine it with other embroidery and then have this as an embellishment, it looks really fabulous. So there's lots of instructions on how to use different things in here. We've also got the multifunction foot control in here, which is compatible with this machine. Again, something that you wouldn't have been able to use with your ruby or diamond, but this you can actually program, so it works like a normal foot control. You can use the levers at either side and the heel as a switch to turn things on and off, so you can program things like cut or fix or reverse or extra presser foot lift, that sort of thing, and you can put them where you want them. So if you don't want anything programmed on it at the time, you can leave it like that. You can alter it whenever you like. But the best thing about it is the weight. If you've ever chased around after your foot control under the table with your foot, this does not move. It's got a nice rubbery base, but it's also quite heavy, so it doesn't skid about. Anyway, I don't sew with anything else now, so anyway, that's the joy of Sewing Advisor. So if we now go quickly onto the sewing side, so I'm going to click on sewing and start new, and it's gone into sewing mode. Okay, so it goes to straight stitch as a default. We've got the foot that you're going to use, all of your information is on the screen. You can mirror image vertically or horizontally. You've got stitch width, stitch length, tension, also foot pressure. To select your stitch, you just browse through the sections at the bottom here. So we've got, so section D is quilting, for instance. I can make that full screen as well. Remember me saying about the pinch and swipe and everything? I can make that bigger by just opening it up like that. So you can also make your text bigger or smaller. We've not been able to do that before. So yeah, you can just select a stitch. Let's minimize that out of the way again. It shows you it life size on the screen, and you've got all your different adjustments at your fingertips. For free motion, let's put it back on a straight stitch again. You've got 3 free motion modes. You've got the spring action and the floating free motion, which was the R foot or the Echo quilting foot. We've also got now the free motion ruler foot. There's a special setting for that, so you're all set up for the latest accessories on free motion. The other thing, of course, that we've got is the sensor system, and you'll all be familiar with that because you've got that on your machines already. But just to give you some idea, we've got presser foot down, the pivot position, presser foot up, and the extra lift, which drops the feed dogs down as well to get everything out the way, so if you've got something bulky it doesn't catch on the feed teeth. Just as an example of what this machine will go through, that is 16 layers of denim. Okay, it's sewn together, not skipped any stitches. Let's just put that under the foot, needle down. Didn't bat an eyelid, did it? So it just shows the immense, there's a lot of power behind this machine. It will go through a lot of fabric. You don't need to worry about whether it can cope with what you're going to throw at it. If we lift that up, and I need to go onto the extra foot lift, although it won't come out. I don't know if you noticed how high the pivot was on that, but if I now put the needle down into just a couple of layers of quilting cotton, that hover position has come up much lower because it's recognised that that fabric is much thinner than the wad of denim that we put in it. As another example of what it'll go through, That's 32 layers of quilting cotton. Not that you'd ever want to sew 32 layers, but who knows, you might. So there we go, that's the sensor system. So if I now go into embroidery, I'm just going to change that background colour back because it was white before. Right, okay, so we can bring sewing stitches and sewing alphabets into the embroidery hoop, but I won't touch on that now, but it is possible to do that. So you can do buttonholes in the hoop. You'll never do buttonholes the same way ever again. All our designs are accessible from the screen, and just like the sewing stitches, they're divided into categories. So I've got children's, I've got quilting, freestanding lace, small designs, which are really useful because we've still got the design shaping and the design applique like we had on the diamonds, so you can make up your own basic applique shapes without having to digitize them. The machine will do it for you, and you can arrange motifs in a shape and mix and match them around. So that's a really fun way of adding something extra to your designs. So that's all our designs. Let's pick something small. This is probably going to be huge. There we go, we've got that on a screen. That's in an 80 by 80 hoop, so that's actually quite a small design. That's okay. We've also got something called the Smart Toolbox, which is new on these screens. If I just press my finger on it, I actually get up 4 symbols. One is copy, I've got the bin, and I've got the mirror image, vertical and horizontal. So I can just slide my finger along, said she. There we go, I waited too long. So I'm going to duplicate, and it's done me another copy of that design. We've got menu items down here. We've got move into hoop. Again, we've got the mirror images, we've got the bin, and we've got copy down there. We can also group designs. I can select a design just by clicking the separate little blocks in that menu there. I can select them all, and then I can combine them all as one design if I want, and I can undo that at any time. I'm now back to 2 separate designs again. So it's really very versatile. You can sort of work with groups of designs together, or you can separate them and manipulate them individually. We've also got, let me move that back into the hoop. So at the moment we're just able to move the designs round. We've also got the option to rotate them. I'm just going to zoom back down a bit. There's a slider there, very useful. So I can rotate these things in the hoop just by grabbing the handle and turning it, or I can do it 90 degrees at a time with the centre of the wheel there. I can scale, so let me make it 20% bigger, 20% smaller, and I can pan, and that doesn't actually change anything, that just actually lets me move the view round. But yeah, really easy to navigate around that. Along the bottom here we've got resize, so you can change the size of a design and recalculate the stitch count. We've got we can bring stitches into the hoop there. We've got our applique and our design shaping down there. So we've also got smart save, so that if you have a power cut, or it shuts down unexpectedly, or you just want to shut down for the night and come back to it in the morning, you can smart save and you can come back to exactly the same place in the morning. That doesn't just work in embroidery stitch out anymore, that works in embroidery edit, and it works in the sewing side. So if you got your machine just set up how you wanted it the night before, you can come back the next morning, press the smart save. So there's if you've got one saved, it'll be at the bottom there on your home page. Just press that and it will set all your machine back up how you left it. It's brilliant. Yeah, we've got basting functions on there just like we normally do. You can baste around the hoop or around your design, but that, I think you're pretty used to that. Right, other things that are different. We've got upright spool holders with a telescopic thread guide. Now, that means if we wanted to put a cone on our machine, on a ruby or a diamond, we had to have this little gizmo to do it, didn't we? And that sat on the spare spool pin. We don't need that. We are going to put our cone straight onto the machine. So I can put it on my spool there. There are some little holders just to stop the bottom wobbling around, but I can put those on. Sorry, it's very awkward doing this from one side. There we go. Okay, so I'm all threaded up. Great for metallic threads as well, because you need to give them a bit of space to unwind and get the spring out of them sometimes. But I'm also going to show you the auto needle threader. So you notice the thread path is just like normal, through the hook at the top of the needle, and then through these two pieces here and through the thread cutter. All I have to do is press that button and my needle's threaded. And you can imagine if you're doing embroidery with lots of thread changes, that is an absolute godsend. And if you're not very good with the needle threader, you know, a conventional manual one, then that just takes the worry out of it completely. So what else have we got? We've done the needle threader. Oh, presser feet, yes. So we've got a good range of presser feet with this machine. So we've got, in the bottom of here, we've got the straight stitch needle plate. There is a sensor on the machine, so you can't do a wide stitch with a straight stitch needle plate on and break your needle. It's like a safety feature. And if I open that up, we've got a collection of feet in there. Obviously the A-foot's on the machine, but there's 9 different presser feet in here, plus these bobbins are 30% bigger than the standard ones. We also do pre-wounds in that size as well, if you don't want to wind your own. If we look in the back, we've got a special spot for the sensor buttonhole foot, we've got sensor cue foot, and we've also got the interchangeable dual feed included. Now the sensor cue and the dual feed are not the same as the ones that were on your ruby or your diamond, so don't make the mistake of using those on this machine. This needle screw is slightly higher, so the arm on the sensor cue foot and the arm on the dual feed are slightly longer to accommodate that, so don't get them mixed up. The sensor cue foot is a sort of slightly grey colour, whereas the one for your ruby and your diamond would have been a bright white, so that's how you tell the difference. Okay, and there's all the normal sort of spool caps and all sorts of other bits and bobs in there that you'll need. Obviously we do extension tables for these machines. We've got, sorry, I've got something stuck in there. You see, that's it. We do extension tables for these machines, so we do the white extension table with the adjustable guide, and we do also do the quilt table as well, the big perspex one, which I think is best part of 28 inches long, so that will really make this a very big space indeed to sew on, which is great. Okay, we've also got on here a separate bobbin winder. So you can be sewing or embroidering from this spool here, but you can have your thread on, your bobbin thread on this spool and be winding, and the bobbin thread winders down here. They can both run at the same time. There's no chance of the threads crossing one another, so really easy to do. You can sort of use your time wisely. You've got 2 USB ports on this side, which aren't just for USBs. If somebody gave you a design on the USB, you know, you can still use it, but things like your multifunction foot control plug into those USB ports as well. Obviously the lighting is pretty good. It should be a big improvement on what you had before. At the moment this is at its lowest setting, and I've got a lot of lights in here because I'm filming, so it might be a bit difficult to see the difference, but we've got buttons on the front here where we can actually turn the lighting up. Okay, so that's at its full intensity. You can't see my hand now, look. So you can set that to what's comfortable. It's adjustable. You don't have to put up with it being too bright, but if you need that extra light, you can turn it up. And also, there's a little light up in the thread area here, just to make life a bit easier for you when you're actually threading up, particularly for winding bobbins and things like that. I think that's it. I think I've been through all the differences. Hopefully, well, I think it's a really good upgrade, but it's a fantastic machine. I think you'd be really pleased with it. And thank you for watching.